Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Corey Knowles, a managing editor at Technology Advice. Today, we're here to discuss how generative AI is used and perceived by marketing professionals in the US and European markets. While it's still a new technology, marketing teams around the world are adapting their workflow in new and creative ways every day already. We're excited to be joined today by Sarah Sullivan of Contentful. As Global Vice President of Contentful's Solution Engineering Practice, Sarah leads a pre-sales organization of strategists and consultants focused on helping organizations understand and realize the value of Contentful's composable content platform. Her current focus is on how organizations can leverage Gen AI in their content production lifecycle in order to power personalization at scale. Prior to Contentful, she held leadership roles in cloud-based software organizations, including SAP Fieldglass and Smartsheet. Sarah, how are you today?
Fantastic, Corey. Thanks for inviting me to join you here today.
Oh, good. Glad to have you. We're also joined by Tony Payton, editor of Tech Republic Premium. He'll be sharing the European perspective today. How are you, Tony?
Yeah, all's well in here in Europe. We're one big happy family, as everybody knows. Actually, the TRP, Tech Republic Premium AI, is actually one of our top 3 subjects of the readers. So it is of great interest to, everybody really in the tech world. But yeah, good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, let's just dive right in. Sarah, would you mind telling us about Contentful's recent study on Gen AI?
Absolutely. So earlier this year, we conducted a study with over 800 different organizations worldwide to really get a sense of how organizations are thinking about leveraging and utilizing generative AI within their organizations, and specifically around their marketing content production processes. And I think the data actually told us some really interesting stories. And I've picked out a couple of those here today. But for those folks that are joining us, if you would like a copy to this entire study, it is available to you today. I think they're going to put a link here in the handout section, as well as throughout our conversation. So please take a moment, download it, and check it out. I'll actually kind of start here with the first piece of data that came back. And one of the questions we asked this audience of 800 individuals was, what kind of jobs within your organization are you thinking about and leveraging generative AI to assist you? And there's a couple of these that kind of jumped out to me that I thought were worth discussing here today. Number one, 35% of organizations are using it to write code. That didn't really surprise me. I think if we actually think back a year ago when this became such a hot topic, developers utilizing generative AI to assist them in writing code, that felt like one of the obvious use cases that organizations were going to lean into pretty heavy. And the data shows us that. Where I think it is kind of interesting is this one that's about 2/3 of the way down the page is around modeling content. Obviously, we're a content management platform. This is something we very much care about. And organizations oftentimes find it very tedious to go through and figure out what is the right structure for my content. How do I think about content reusability and putting meta tags and structures and hierarchies in place to actually give that content meaning. And so I love to see that organizations are thinking about and doing this. About 25% of them are already doing this today. We've actually built this into our platform as well so that organizations can do it much easier. So if this is something that you and your organizations are thinking about, Contentful has a solution to be able to help you.
Oh, wow. Well, Sarah, what jobs like right now are people already seeing success with?
Yeah. If we flip to the next slide here, we concentrated this particular question on marketing audiences. So folks that are creating webinars and content series and thinking about product messaging and all of the jobs that they need in order to create amazing digital connections with their audiences. And the first piece of data, or the first piece of content here that came out at the top really surprised me. When I talked to digital leaders and chief marketing officers, and I ask them, where are you thinking about leveraging generative AI? The one place they tend to say they would never use it is in product descriptions. For many organizations, this is kind of a religious area. It's their sweet spot. They want to control the way that they described their products. But what the data shows is that nearly 50% of organizations, they're leaning in. They're doing this today already. And I'll give you a quick example. One of our customers is an organization called Ruggable. And if you're not familiar with Ruggable, they do washable rugs, and they do it. They sell them in a direct-to-consumer method. So they have this amazing e-commerce site. They recently launched a new capability on their website where you can upload a picture of your house, of your room, and they will automatically go through all of their rugs and recommend one to you using generative AI. And in addition, they rewrite the product description based on the picture that you've uploaded. And I've played with this many, many times. I've had people on my teams actually buy rugs as a result of this. The way that they're doing it feels so personal and tailored, and it just resonates to, me as a consumer and to others as consumers. And so I just think this is, we kind of have to put some of the I would nevers aside and actually start to play with and experiment with different areas where generative AI could be used. The other one that kind of surprised me. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. That's such a great user experience, though, to be able to go in and have everything so personalized like that. It's really, that's something we can't do with humans. We don't have the power to automate it for every single person that specifically without the technology.
I agree. And I think we kind of have to go like, where's the future going, right? A little bit of being a marketer is understanding like what's coming next. And it seems like this is what consumers are going to expect from commerce experiences. They're going to expect their content, their experiences, the way a product is being displayed to know who they are and to be translated into a context and a meaning and maybe even a language that resonates with who they are. And it kind of comes back to the need for first party data, the need to be able to do personalization at scale. Like a lot of these things are kind of converging on each other. If you're a marketer, you have to be thinking about how you're putting technology in place to be able to support this. Because to your point, you can't hire enough humans to do this in a one-to-one relationship with every single consumer that's coming to your site.
Yeah, and I would argue that if you're not thinking about it, your competitors are.
I agree.
Well, Tony, what are you seeing in Europe as far as implementation goes with Gen AI?
Well, I would say the stats are pretty good. The evidence is out there. I've done some research, which it's my job as a journalist is to do research, so it's easy for me to sort of get the information. But I would encourage the viewers to do their own. Don't take my word for it. That's the whole point of the world. You don't trust one source. But if we look at Statista, which is a respected website, they did a survey with Capgemini, another trusted name. This was about the UK only. So 36% of respondents, they're using Gen AI for marketing. So that's good for them. Another 24% are testing it or experimenting. So that's pretty good. Right. There's also the budget. So people, money matters. Is the money going to start flowing towards it? Another research by Capgemini, a busy company. It looks like 62% of budgets are allocated to that tech. This is marketing campaign budgets. So again, pretty good. Now, I don't just talk about the UK. I do think about Europe. Europe, you might argue about the challenges. There are a lot of countries, different languages. Think of Hungarian, Finnish, Estonian, and Latvian, Lithuanian. There are so many different languages in quite a small space.
Yeah.
But those will be overcome. Europe has a long history of overcoming the challenges. We've been trading for thousands of years. So that will be overcome. And the view in Europe, like McKinsey talked about it, they sort of said, again, it's back to this point of personalization. Gen AI can be used for specific content targeted at people. So McKinsey and Deloitte, the research is out there showing it. Deloitte did talk a bit about some Europeans being a bit slower behind APAC and Americas, but that will change. It's their loss. America is obviously top again, so well done to you. You can cheer if you want.
Since it doesn't look like AI development and implementation are going to be slowing down anytime soon, how can we expect marketing companies to leverage it moving forward?
Yeah, I think the first answer that a marketing leader needs to be asking their organization is, how are you getting ready for it? And one of the questions we asked in the survey was around, how are organizations thinking about and preparing and planning around either training or tuning a large language model, an LLM. And I think most organizations look at the public LLMs and say they're good, but they lack a couple things. They lack the company's brand. They're not able to truly write in the voice of the organization that's trying to put out this content. There's maybe some legal risk about using content that maybe isn't your own that organizations are worried about. And so when we talk to marketing leaders, what you keep hearing them ask is like, how do we do this safely? How do we do this responsibly? And how do we do this leveraging our content, our expertise, our brand, and our voice? And the answer seems to be you have to be thinking about either training or tuning an LLM in order to have that high fidelity content come out of it. Now, training an LLM, that is not a small undertaking. It's expensive. It takes a lot of time and energy and resources. I don't think most organizations, at least in the short term, are going to start there. Maybe in the long term. Tony, you might be able to share a little bit about that, about what you're seeing. But in the short term, what organizations can and should be doing is thinking about how they're building out content in a way so that it has structure and meaning, so that it can be easily used to tune an LLM so that it produces high fidelity results. That is very much available and able to be done with solutions like Contentful. Tony, I'm curious, are you seeing customers out training their own LLMs, or are they more leaning on the tuning with their own content?
Well, I would say they're mainly using the sort of the three big Gen AI. We've got Google Gemini, obviously formerly Bard. We've got ChatGPT. We've got Copilot. There is Apple Intelligence, the fourth one, I suppose, coming in. But most are sort of just using those LLMs provided by the three big American companies. Even the Europeans are doing that, even though we do have, let's be honest, Europe doesn't have these huge tech firms that you have in America. So that's what I'm seeing from most firms. I can talk about use cases later, actually, about what some companies are doing, but I'll come on to that later.
Sounds great. Curious to learn more.
I'm inclined to agree with you, Sarah. I feel like the answer for the vast majority of companies is going to be fine-tuning an existing model. It's so much money, it's so much work. You need to build out a team. The amount of data you have to have is absolutely absurd to build it out from scratch on your own. But to fine-tune one with your own content that's already written in your voice, written by your people, with your own brand, your own colors, your own style, you can absolutely do that, and you can do it pretty reasonably.
Yeah.
Well, suppose a company is interested in diving into Gen AI. Where would you recommend they start?
Well, we kind of think about this as a little bit of a recipe. You need some good ingredients in order to make that recipe, and then you need a way to be able to cook it, and then you ultimately hopefully get to enjoy that recipe at the end. And so our belief is, well, a lot of marketing leaders kind of start with the end in mind. I would like to use Gen AI to translate copy. I would like to use Gen AI to help my writers write the first draft of something or create content variations for different audiences. That's great. That's the end. And in order to actually produce high quality results, you need an LLM that is tuned. And the only way you're going to truly tune an LLM in a way that actually produces high fidelity results is you must start with connecting your content and giving that content structure and meaning so that it can be used to tune the LLM effectively. And this is where I oftentimes think of, what is it? What do you mean by structured content? What does that mean to give it meaning and tagging? And I'll try to give an example for folks here today. Imagine you have a suite of products and certain features are available in one product, but not in another. If someone comes to your website, maybe they go to a chatbot and they ask a question, and that chatbot is being powered by Gen AI. If they ask a question about a feature and they don't currently own that product, that LLM will likely give them an answer that does not apply to them. And that's what we mean by content needs to have structure and meaning. So it's not just what is the feature and how does it work. It also needs to have the tagging behind the scenes that say, this applies to these three products. And so when someone comes to your website, look them up in your first party database, find out what they've purchased, and then give them advice based on their data, their information, what they purchased from your organization. That's where we see this full loop really being built out and having a great result. I'll give you a little bit of an example. One of our actually we can flip through the rest of the clicks here for our folks on the line here. So first, start with content or structured content that has meaning. Use that to tune your LLM, and then once you've tuned that LLM, you can then use it in any number of Gen AI powered solutions, including solutions like Contentful for generating copy and translating copy, et cetera. One of our customers happens to be Klarna. And if you're not familiar with Klarna, Klarna is a fintech company based out of the Nordics, and they essentially offer on commerce websites a pay-as-you-go model. So when you go to checkout, instead of maybe paying by credit card, you can choose Klarna as a pay-as-you-go. Maybe you pay that over the course of 4 months, for example, or four payments. They recently put out a press release, their own press release, showcasing how they started with Contentful to store all of their content, give it structure and meaning. They use that to tune an LLM. In their case, they're using a ChatGPT. And they've now taken that tuned LLM and they're using it in a variety of business applications across the organization. One of them being customer support. And they are projected in the first year alone, they've released this, that they are estimated to save over $40 million in support costs. That is phenomenal. But they haven't stopped there. They've taken that same tune to LLM and they've used it as part of an employee chatbot so that their employees can get information to help them do their jobs more effectively. Their marketing team is using it for sentiment analysis. Their legal team is using it to write contracts. I love that one. And then obviously their marketing team has brought it back into Contentful to use it to create copy and audit copy and translate copy. So they have very much seen the full circle of what is possible if you really lean in and move quickly on solving this problem with generative AI.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Now, Tony, I understand you've been seeing some similar things in Europe. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are quite a lot of examples of companies using Gen AI. I mean, actually, Sarah mentioned Klarna, the Swedish fintech firm, which is doing very well. Again, there's Orange in France, there's BMW, where we all know where that is, Bayerische Motorwerken. We've got British Airways, which I think you can guess where that one is. There's Nestle in Switzerland, there's Breitling in Switzerland as well. Coming back to Sweden is IKEA. I think a lot of people of a certain age have something from IKEA. Maybe it's a fluffy cushion or a chair or a candle. Now for IKEA, again, it's a big company. They're going to experiment with something. They're going to test it out. I was doing some research, and there's an interesting article in the Forbes about IKEA using Gen AI. So, for example, it's talking about personalization. So they're going to use it they got a custom version of Microsoft's Copilot. So they can create the content. They can demonstrate products sort of in relevant ways for customers. Again, it's repurposing marketing material, making it very specific for each different audience and market, because IKEA, it's a global brand. So with IKEA, they've used a custom version of Microsoft's sort of Copilot. Now, again, the idea is talking about personalization. It's going to keep it simple, it's create content targeted at specific audiences. They do type of things like with images where you can sort of generate stuff, check different sofas, but we're thinking more about content, about the text. So that's what they're doing. It is an example of personalization.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't realize IKEA was that invested,
Well, I think with any tech,
States too.
with any tech, like with AI, let's think back to I was at a conference in 2015 in Singapore when blockchain first came along. People start experimenting. So we see with AI, Gen AI, many firms will start experimenting. It's no surprise that there's a great interest. So that's how I see it. So I'd encourage viewers to sort of do this research themselves, check out those use cases. They are real, and it's sort of good evidence of how the content is working and how Gen AI can improve your content.
Tony, I love that you mentioned IKEA because they've actually are a pretty big user of the Contentful platform. They came to us many years ago when the pandemic hit, and they realized that the ability to send out the physical catalog was no longer going to work for them, and they wanted a way to be able to bring that immersive catalog experience to life through a digital experience. And so they've deployed that entire solution on Contentful now. And they're leading edge innovators. They lean into technology, they experiment, they're not scared of trying things with it. And I think the fact that they're leveraging generative AI should not surprise any of us either.
Well, let's talk through the content production lifecycle a little bit. I know a lot of people think this is strictly about generating actual post content, but that's really just scratching the surface, right?
Yeah, Corey, I agree. I think the opportunity for a marketing organization to think about a variety of different ways in which they could be leveraging generative AI is very much available to them today. I'll start here. I've kind of grouped this into ideas into three categories. So on the left, I have creation ideas. The middle, I have orchestration ideas, and on the right, presentation ideas. Starting in creation, I think the obvious place to get going is translation. Tony, you mentioned this. You mentioned that you're seeing a lot of organizations leverage these off-the-shelf LLMs that have not been trained or tuned. To me, if you're going to leverage an off-the-shelf solution, translation is the place where you can go. You can go there right away, and they do that really, really well. So if you're a marketing leader and you want to get started today, start with translation. I think from there, once you have your LLM tuned with your content, your message, your brand, your voice, then you're ready to do some of the more experimental things like using Gen AI to solve the blank page syndrome of writing the first or second draft. You can use Gen AI to create content variations for different audiences. Folks, this is just a coded way of saying personalization at scale. This is coming. Consumers are going to expect it. Get going. If I think Corey, you said it earlier, if you don't start now, you will get left behind. This just is going to become the norm.
Yeah, it's moving fast. And I mean, I even notice in just every website you visit, everywhere you go, if you go look at software, if you go look at cars, it doesn't matter what you're looking at. Everybody is on board. And everybody's taking different routes, different ways, and they're doing neat things. And it's largely pretty affordable even. It's absolutely something you should be doing right now, not tomorrow.
In terms of orchestration, I think there's some interesting opportunities here for organizations as well. I mentioned earlier at the top of the call, utilizing a generative AI to build a content model. We have that built into our platform. Customers do that today. It saves them a ton of time and energy. I think the idea of AI-based chat agents, leveraging your content to tune an LLM that can be then used for a bot that maybe sits on your customer support site or as part of your maybe a welcome bot that's on your marketing site. This is very much doable today. We actually have a partnership with an organization called Ada. They can actually stand up a tuned LLM in a few hours and actually have that ready for you to use on your website very quickly. So if you're not familiar with that organization, check them out. We also do a lot of this in partnership with AWS Bedrock. They're one of our big partners. And what I love about their solution is they don't dictate what LLM you use. You get to actually pick and choose what you want as your starting LLM, but they give you the framework and the mechanism to tune it with your information from Contentful. So again, if you're trying to get started today, there's a ton of options that we can help you with and offer to you to get you started quickly. And then the last part I'll mention here is around presentation. I think the obvious solution for Gen AI is around writing text. And if you listen to the CEO of Google, he'll talk about like other modalities as being like the next frontier for generative AI. Like, can you use it to create audio or video or images and things like that? That feels like that still needs a little bit of work and fine tuning before that's going to be ready for prime time. Text is obviously here.
Yeah.
Where we actually see this going is around the presentation layer. Now, walk with me a little bit. Imagine you had a design system, most organizations do for building web experiences or any of their digital experiences. Imagine you had built that design system in a way that was basically chunks, little pieces of design components. Gen AI could be used to actually assemble those on the fly and create experiences dynamically for every single user. That's how we think about it. That's how we solve it. that future still feels like it's a little bit far out, maybe a few months or quarters, but that is coming very quickly. And so I know we're talking a lot about content today. Don't think about just content. This is going to be very important for presentation very quickly, very soon.
5 years ago, we didn't talk about how the future was months or quarters away either, did we? That's such a new thing. Well, Sarah, where can viewers go to learn more about Contentful?
I think we have a number of resources available to all of you here today. So obviously, we've shared at the beginning of the call, we have our survey that we would love to share with you all for download. So please take a moment, check that out. Obviously, you can come to contentful.com, spend some time with us there. And you can find me on LinkedIn. Sarah Sullivan at Contentful is a great way to find me to connect there as well.
Nice. Well, Sarah, Tony, this has been a lot of fun. It's been a really insightful chat. Again, I'm Corey Knowles with Technology Advice, and I want to personally thank everyone who came today and is listening. Good luck to you on your journey to work smarter through technology.